Ooh, opening jingle sounds because I'm too lazy to edit. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Arthur Owen Wills, and today we have Megan. Say hello.
Hi, everyone.
So, as everyone knows, I'm new to podcasting, so I'm going to read my script notes now. Introduction. Hello, welcome to the Arthur Owen Wills podcast, the Open Minded Wills podcast. The goal of the podcast is to talk to people from all walks of life, to give people the opportunity to share their life stories and promote their work. And if I'm not hosting someone, I will talk about topics that interest me. Then I have to scroll from my notes. I'm the author of several books, ERTA, the complete series, Erotic Road Trip Adventures, the complete series, My Gym Desires, and My College Desires. You can find all of these on Amazon. On today's episode, I will be talking to Megan about her book that she's working on. She's not fully settled on the topic. She's kind of near a broken kind of love. Do I have that correct?
Yeah,
That's
for
what
the
she's
title,
going to
yeah.
start with. So, sorry?
Yeah, for the title, yeah. A
For the
broken kind of
title.
love.
So we're going to talk about that, like her writing challenges, processes, her inspirations. Then we're going to talk about the difficulties of being an indie author, such as ARCs being stolen, readers and author stigmas and biases, and because she wants to be an indie author as well, and I'm an indie author, so we're both going to go through that. And then we're going to talk about how dark romance has turn-on aspects when it touches on so many controversial subjects. And you guys know what those are. I'm not going to say it because of YouTube and podcast restrictions. So, yeah, let's get into that right now. So let's talk about what is the first topic, your book. Let's get into what inspired you and everything like that.
So kind of what inspired me to write it is back in 2021, I had my youngest sister passed away. And just like I started reading to process like all of the stuff. Like I became a mom overnight because me and my husband took in our two kids. And so like life completely changed for us. And so I started really reading with that. And then I really wanted to kind of tell her story. And so I started writing a book, and the book is about three sisters, and one of them dies of a drug overdose because that's how my sister passed, is a drug overdose. But what's different in the book is it wasn't like an accidental overdose. It was like an underground criminal who like sells drugs who gave her the stuff that made her OD. And so then it evolves into like this drama, and one of the sisters trying to figure out like what really happened to her sister. And then she kind of, runs into an old flame that she had when she was younger, and then they kind of like have a romance that blooms, and she ends up finding out that he's like an FBI agent and has been following this guy. So there's like all this
So does
stuff
he
that
really love her, or you can't tell us that?
I can't, I know I can't give out the secrets
Okay,
because
yeah.
the
Damn, my
readers,
brain is already working on this. Okay, okay.
when the people come out, yeah, when the book comes out, people will have to find out like what happens. But she does run into an old flame, and he ends up like being somebody who's investigating, this drug dealer person. So it kind of takes elements of like real life experiences with my sister, but turning it into something fake.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's good. You can tell her story without it being like so direct. Yeah,
Yes.
that makes sense. What
And I
chapter are
just
you
wanted to
on?
get that emotion out.
Right, right. The process, for sure. And
Yeah.
my condolences, by the way. Yeah,
Thank you. It
of course.
was hard, but it's been a while now, so I mean, losing a sibling is hard, is always going to be hard,
Yeah,
but
you heal in a way of understanding that.
yes.
Yeah, I totally understand you. How far have you got? How far have you gotten into writing it?
So I've written like 17 chapters. And then I don't even know if the word count counts, but like I think my word count is like around 50,000
Oh wow.
words
Okay.
for the 17 chapters. And I mean, the story is like almost finished, but I think it'll probably be like 25 chapters, maybe 20, like in between 23 and 25 chapters.
How
So
how
it's
are
not
you
going to be
breaking
like a
up your
large
chapters
book.
in word count? Sorry for non-authors. This is kind of a little bit nerdy, but this is how authors are thinking about it. So yeah, how are you breaking up? What's your word count per chapter?
So I've been trying to focus on being like in between like 25 to like 3,000. So they're not like super long chapters.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say yeah, the 2,500. Okay, yeah. I got you. I got you.
Yeah. So it's kind of like I think some go like a little bit over 3,000 and then some under 3,000, but that's kind of generally. I actually Googled, I was like, what length should chapters
Me
generally
too.
be?
Yes, that's
And
yes.
it's said for a novel because it's not going to be like a a multiple series. It's just going to be like a one book.
Right,
And it said that generally they're I think 2,500 to like up to like 5,000. And
right.
so I just kind of stuck in the middle.
Stuck in the middle. Yeah. I
Yeah.
picked up on that. Yeah, I was like, and yeah, that's exactly what I did. I was, well, if it's gonna be a novella, what's the word count? Yeah, you got to do all of that and package it well. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So
So I don't know if I'm doing it right, but that's just what my research
if
has.
if it flows, man, and it's gonna be fine. Like, cause like people are not gonna be like, oh, what chapter? That was just me nerding out on like how you do it.
And I am lucky that my editor is also beta reading it as I'm writing it.
Okay.
So she's like beta reading it for me and then kind of giving me like a little bit of feedback. And then when I'm completely finished, then we'll go into the full editing. But my editor is doing both for me right now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you need that. You need that feedback because sometimes you don't see your plot holes. Oh my god! Like, oh, this could be the segue into the difficulties of being an indie author. One of them is editors and plot holes. Like for me, for sure. Like finding an editor was hell. Like I'm really happy you have an editor, like a good editor, because yeah, they're your teammate and you need that.
Yeah, she's amazing. And she was actually one of the first friends that I made when I joined Bookstagram. And she's doing a podcast with me. So she's like one of my co-hosts on our podcast.
Oh, shout out your
And
podcast, and I'll put the
huh?
links in this one. Shout out your podcast.
It's the Bookish Diaries podcast. We're YouTube, Spotify, and Apple
Nice,
right now.
and I'll
And we
put the links in.
thank you.
Of course, of course.
Yes, check them out and check this one out.
What's your editor's name? Shout her out. Shout her out. Shout everyone
Her
out.
name is Kate Black, and she's with Bitchin' Books Editorial.
Nice, nice. Good,
And
good.
she's amazing. And she does like all genres, and she's like super awesome. I am so lucky that I have her and that she's my friend and doing this journey with me.
For all those authors and non-authors, an editor who does all genres is your godsend, because that was one of my biggest challenges, and anyone who's a writer's biggest challenge if you're just starting out is you will say, like for me, I write like sci-fi erotica. There's so many authors that won't do that. They won't touch erotica, or they won't touch sci-fi, they won't touch fantasy. So if someone's just willing to do everything, you're already gold. You're
Yeah,
good.
she's and she has like no like I know that people in the book community talk about like trigger warnings and stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that. Like
right.
she doesn't have any of that. Like she's open to at least that I know of, she's open to everything.
Everything, and that's a big deal these days too. So are you gonna put trigger warnings in your book, or are you gonna? Because that's a big deal for the older authors like us. Like we think it's dumb. It's just like going blind and like it's a book. It's supposed to pull all your emotions to people that are like, nope, I have these anxiety, depression, whatever, and I don't want to be triggered. And if I don't see a trigger warning, I'm not fucking touching your book. So, what do you
So
think? What spectrum are you on that?
I'm 40 years old. I don't give a shit about
2039.
trigger warnings. Actually, for me, when I do see them in books, I'm like, oh, the more the merrier. But I don't care for them to be there. I'm like, why? Like, to me, and most of the time, I honestly don't even read them. But to me, you're giving away part of the book, like stuff
Yeah.
that's going to happen. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
want to
That's what I
know that
feel.
ahead of time. Like, I want to read it and experience it, and I don't want to go into it with the mindset that this and this is going to happen. Like,
Right, because then you just unravel the plot, especially if your brain is a fast working brain and you read a trigger warning and then you read some part of the story. If you read the trigger warning, then you just pull apart the plot and the mystery, the impact, and then it kind of just destroys the build up. That's my point of view. Because like if you're watching a movie, you just know it's rated R. You don't fucking like get every like these scenario clips and then I don't know this.
and
Yeah.
then to me, I'm like, if you have trigger warnings and that's important to you, then don't read adult shit. Like, read like the YA, like, read like the fluffy stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
don't go
don't
to
go
dark romance
into
or erotica or anything like that either.
Yeah, like don't even
Yeah.
attempt to read that. If trigger warnings bother you and you care about reading them, then read the fluffy shit. Like don't
Yeah.
read the dark shit. Like stay away from it then.
I have one for uh, I'm told that a lot of people want to see that my characters or characters in erotica, and I wouldn't even. I say erotica. I started my book as erotica, but any of that naughty genre, they say they want the characters to wear protection. In real life, we need to wear protection. In a book, Jesus Christ.
It's a book. I don't care
book.
about that shit.
If you're thinking about the character catching fucking herpes or gonorrhea, syphilis, Jesus. No, they're fake. You're just supposed to enjoy that moment for a second. In real life, we better be fucking careful. In a book, just
No,
enjoy the
because you're
book.
not reading it for that. Like
Yeah.
for somebody who reads a lot of books, I'm not reading it to read about all of that stuff. Like I actually don't need to know all of the like tiny details. Like it needs to have enough detail, but those like little details like that, like we don't know.
Yeah, I
We don't
I
know.
got
I
when
don't
I
care.
first, especially when I first published, it was like they're not wearing protection. I'm like, and it's like, oh, they fucked this stranger. I'm like, people fuck strangers in real life all the time, and they are either gonna wear protection or they don't. In real life, all the time, people actually do it, and we do know those consequences. Sometimes it's okay, and sometimes it's not. But like you said, if I was even gonna write a consequence, like they caught something, like then it's expected. But like to be pushed into it, I don't like it. I don't know the climate of authors and readers dynamic as much anymore. I kind of detached from it. So when we're talking about the challenges of being an indie author, when I first started, it was a lot of reader bullying and then gaslighting, bullying the authors, but then gaslighting it like, well, if you don't write what we want to read, we're not going to read your book. But then they also don't read your book when you put everything that they. So here's the thing. They'll say they won't read your book if you don't put all the shit that they want in there. But then if you put all the shit they want in there, then they still don't read your book. And then other people really don't want to read your book. So then you've just poisoned your book. Because what's the guarantee they're going to buy it, you know? Like you put condoms, you put trigger warnings, you put all this happily ever after, you do all of this for them. Then it's like, hey, I published and like I've experienced this where I wrote for people. Like my first book was literally a dare from Goodreads, from a Goodreads thing. And it was like, write a double penetration, this, and this. I wrote all of this stuff. And then when I published, a lot of them just blue thumbed me. I was like, hey, I wrote the book that you, bing, fucking blue thumbed.
Oh my
They didn't
God.
buy it. They didn't buy it. So then I did all of that shit and they didn't buy it. So imagine if I did more, if I put the condom, if I put the trigger warnings about the people getting hurt in the book and all this stuff, then they wouldn't buy it anyway. And then I got accused, right? So they asked me to write gay and lesbian scenes or whatever like that, right? LGBTQ representation. So I wrote all of this stuff, and then when I started marketing it, I literally got called a panderer. They were like, "You're not an ally. You're just pandering to us because you're a CIS straight male, whatever." And I was like, "What? Like, you guys say there's no representation in books, and then I was asked to write this. I wrote it, and now you're calling me a panderer. So now you're not going to touch the book." And then they were like, "Yeah, no, you're just pandering to us." So they didn't even call me an ally. They just straight up called me a panderer, and nothing I said could dig me out of that, right? Because then they would just say, "No, you're lying. You're a panderer anyway. You just want us to buy your book." I mean, I want everyone to fucking buy my book. That's the point. But you guys said that you don't have representation and you want an ally, and I was open-minded. I didn't mind writing that, and you shit in my face. That's what happened. So I was like, wow, really don't write for people, indie authors. Write for yourself.
Not that I'm a published author, but I say just from like my experience with like talking to authors and like getting to know some of them, and then I guess from my experience, I mean, besides my like editor like giving me like advice like, oh, like this doesn't make sense, and it needs to be like fixed. Like, I don't care what people want in a book. Either you're gonna like my book or you're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it'll find, I think that books eventually will find like the right people,
Audience.
and I don't know, some books do really well and some don't. I've read, so because I read a lot, and I actually specifically, this is one thing that I do look for when I'm like looking at books, is I actually look when I'm like looking on like Kindle, because I read a lot on Kindle. And not just Kindle Unlimited, like I buy books on Kindle too, but I look for books that have the least amount of reviews.
Oh,
That
that's
are
cool.
specifically indie authors. That's the only thing I look for. Other than that, like, I don't care. And that's not like what I do all the time, but I do try to do that because I'm like, I really want to help authors, promote their books. So I look for those books that have like lower review counts, that have been out for a little while and they still don't have a lot of reviews. And I read those, and a lot of times I've found that those books are better than some of like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
like right now the Kick Onyx Storm just came out. And
Right.
not that I'm bashing the author. I do not like that series. It's not a series that I particularly like love, and I think it's overhyped.
That's the first person point of view one, right? I was spying on that, right? And they're in
So that's like the Dragon book. It's
Dragon
like
book.
the new one that came out is Onyx Storm.
Yeah.
The first one was
She writes it in first person though, right? I remember as an author, full disclosure, I spy on shit. I'd be spying. I'd be like, what's this popular book? And I remember that one. That's first person, I think. First person she writes.
Yeah, I think I haven't read the third book. I read the first book and it was all right. And then I read the second book. See, okay, so I will talk about my issue with that book and why
Go for
I
it.
don't like it, because I read a lot of adult books. And for me, that whole series is written as, it's labeled as an adult book, okay? And but the characters are all written like teenagers. Like the whole time the two main characters are like, I love you, but I can't be with you. You lied to me, you this, you that. And I'm like, that's not an adult relationship. That reminds me of like high school
Yeah.
shit. And I'm like, basically I'm reading high schoolers getting it on. And they're supposed to be adults, like I mean, not full adult. They're supposed to be like college age, okay? But still, I'm like, as an adult person who this is labeled as adult, I'm like, just label it YA and take out the adult themes in it. And I think that it would be a good book, but I don't want to read about teenagers. I'm 40 years old. No.
Yeah, our taste changes, but yeah, I get what she did. She's smart though. It's like gobbles both markets, gets
But
the
her
new
military
readers
stuff
in.
in those books are really
Huh?
good because she writes about military like
Yeah.
aspects in it, and that is like amazing in her books. I just don't like the character
The
development.
characters, yeah. Yeah. I spied on it. I always spy. Uh, I spied on Colleen Hoover a lot back in the day.
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah,
she was really big. I'm not a huge fan of
I'm
hers
not a
either.
huge fan, but I'm mostly not a huge fan of her cohorts. They're mean. They go to war with other authors for no reason. They try to sabotage the authors, like especially when she's about to have a release. They literally start trying to blackmail people. Like it's fucking like I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like I would get. So let's get into this shit about stealing books. So when I started publishing, when I started publishing in 2016, she was getting really big. And then I did ARCs differently because I never wanted to release my own PDFs to people. I was like, get the fuck out of here with that. But what happened was when I published on Smashwords, you get those free coupons. Did you know about Smashwords back in the day? So Smashwords is like the publishing company. It's switched to digital to draft on its own. Like they got acquired by digital to draft. But back then it was Smashwords, and then Smashwords was very liberal about letting authors share their works, especially like you could offer people a free book via a digital coupon. So I did my ARCs that way, which my book was already published, so that people can't steal it. Because if you give the PDF, a lot of the ARC people are fucking pirates. They're straight up trying to be their own authors. They're definitely gonna rip it. There was just some author controversy with that recently. I don't want to drop names and stuff, but it was a big deal in one of the author reader groups I was in, where one of the ladies was just stealing everyone's shit, and then Frankensteining it. But I always had heebie-jeebies about giving my stuff away. So I gave it away that way, and I asked for a lot of reviews. And I swear, I gave away like 200 books. And mind you, I'm gonna warn you now, people have stripping software. So I gave away all these books, and they still stripped it out of the encryption. So they're not supposed to be able to steal it, but they stole it anyway. And I saw it on pirate sites. So that's another thing. But when I gave all of these books away in hopes of reviews, I would get the blue thumb again. And then I got my shit ripped. And then another thing is, they were readers. A lot of them were readers. And at that time, a lot of them were the cohorts. And what they were doing was straight up, when they would take my book, I would ask them, like, hey, what's going on with the review? Like, they would screenshot it and then go into all the little groups and be like, this male author he's a bully and he's being aggressive, and I would get screenshots back like of the chart. Like some of the ladies were like, you're a really nice guy, like, but you know, you need to be careful because look at what they're saying about you. And I was like, what the fuck? And then a lot of authors, not just male authors, but would say to me like, yeah, like they're on a rampage, and it's always when she publishes, for some reason their mindset is to scorch the earth before she publishes so that people take your book off their TBR. Does that make sense? Essentially, they fuck you over, and then they're like, well, there's only one book you want to read from this beautiful author, Colleen Hoover. Like, that's their mindset. That's what they were doing to me. And that's what they were doing to authors. And we were talking about, like, what the fuck is going on? And we noticed a trend. So,
I
yeah.
call those people, I say that they have like a hive mentality, right?
Yeah.
If you don't fall in their category, they're like what they want, then they attack everything else that's like outside of that. And they're all kind of like, I hope people read this. They're probably going to be like, Megan's so mean. But I'm like, they're like the followers in school, right? Like
Yeah.
they did what everybody else did. They followed the trends. They, like they're the followers of society. And I like to think that I'm like more of a leader than a follower, and that's what I'm trying to like teach my kids to be too. Like, be your own person, like do your own thing. Like you don't just because one person says something is good doesn't mean that everybody else needs to follow that. But I feel like that's like kind of like a thing nowadays is like say one person that has like 50,000 followers is like this book is amazing. And then everybody else is like follows along with that whether the book is actually
Yeah.
good
And
or
it's
not.
it's rough. It's rough. It's rough on the indie authors like me for sure. Like, cause I'm gonna be real, I get jealous of shit like that. Cause I'm like, I'll spy on the book and I'm like, and I'm not saying I'm a perfect writer, but sometimes I'm like, damn, I feel like my content is good enough to also be worth. You know what it is? I wouldn't even say it's better than. I would be like, why is mine not equally worthy? That's what I'm like. If
Yeah.
my writing style is similar, or when I am cockamamie, I'll say better, even if people don't think it is. I don't get why I don't get that hype too, so I get jealous. I'm like, this is not fucking fair, but I don't know how to get. I honestly like jealousy wise saying this. I don't know how these people do that shit. How do you even get that group? Because and for us later on, we're gonna need that. we're gonna need the followers. How the fuck does that happen? Drives me nuts.
Um, I don't know. I think about that too. Like when I go to like market, like my book, when it comes out, and that's why like I've kind of started posting like little teasers of it. Like, I just create like a thing and we'll post like a scene, like a clip from like a scene or whatever to kind of start getting it out there. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to really do with like marketing, like really pushing it and then finding, at least what I've seen with like helping, because I've been a part of street teams for authors,
Yeah.
is that's another thing. Like authors will do like signups for, and I don't know what they did back in the day because I only learned about this stuff like a little over a year ago when I joined Bookstagram. But they do street teams and they get people to help promote their books.
Yeah.
And I've been a part of a few of those. I did stop doing those too because it like started to take away from me the joy of reading because
Right.
it started to feel like all of this stuff was a job versus doing it for fun.
Right.
Because I will say, so on the side of like the non-authors, another thing that was like hard for me with it is like, say, because this is all free. Like this was something that like
Yes.
people sign up to do for free. I would have authors get mad at me, like if I missed a post and be like, well, we're going to kick you out. And I'm like, you do realize that I have a life outside of this, right? Like
Right.
this is something I'm doing in my free time to help you. And you're messaging me getting mad because I may have missed a post that week. And so that's kind of like why I stopped doing it too, is I'm like, it's taking the fun away. I'm having people, I'm not even getting paid to do this. And
Right.
I'm having somebody get mad at me like they're my boss.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not
Oh
worth
yeah.
it.
Oh, I
For,
meet a lot of selfish authors too. Yeah, that shit's. So what's funny is how could I defend myself too? Was if someone called me aggressive, and I do know there's a lot of aggressive authors, I'm fucked. Because how could I say I'm not one of those? I really just genuinely wanted my review that you did definitely promise me, and it's been 6 months. But then you were right. There's a lot of authors like that. I've seen it, and then I've seen a lot of cutthroat authors like faking it, like trying to do a book swap thing where it's like, if you review my book, I'll review yours, and then I'm like, okay, I'll buy your book, and then I buy their book, and then they don't buy my book, and I'm like, I'm clearly not going to do your review now. Like you just made me buy your book. You're tricking me.
so,
Just shit like that. Like what the fuck is going on?
so that's fucked up.
It's-
Like, I
I
don't know.
dealt with so much shit. It's so annoying, man. People are fucking annoying to me. Excuse my
I
language.
will
there,
say what I do, like when I have signed up for ARCs, there have been, and for anybody that doesn't know, ARCs are the advanced reader copies. When I've signed up for them, I to me, I make it like I'm signing up for it. I made a commitment to review it, right? So there have been a couple of times where there's been books that I haven't really liked. Now, I always post a review, but what I will do for the books that I didn't particularly like is I wait like 2 to 3 weeks after release, the release date. Like I won't post the negative review before
Right.
the book releases, but I'll give it like 2 to 3 weeks after the book has released officially, and then I'll post my review out of respect for the author. But because I agreed to, review it, I wait to do that if it's going to be like somewhat of a negative review. I mean, if it's like less than 3 stars, I'll probably just like skip giving a review because I just think it's mean.
Did you
to
tell
go
the
out there.
author?
Huh?
Did you tell the author?
No,
You didn't
so
want to hurt
I've
the
only
feelings?
had one author reach out to me to ask when I was going to review their book. And I did end up, it took me a little bit because I was like, it was my first experience with an author like physically asking me. And then, so it took me a little bit to build up the courage to message her back. But I did message her back and I was honest. And I was like, like, I appreciate you giving me, the book, but it wasn't something that I particularly, like, the book wasn't for me, basically. So it was like my first experience with that. So it was just really awkward
No, I
having them
understand.
reach out. But, and I've had a couple authors ask, and I try to be honest with them and will tell them, like, it just wasn't a book for me. But if I committed to doing something, I feel like you have to keep that commitment, because how are you going to be respected in a community of like authors giving you books and doing that stuff if you don't stay with your commitment? Even if it's a book that you didn't like, you should still be honest
Yeah.
about it. And if the author asks you, like, be honest and be upfront with them and tell them like, hey, like, I appreciate it, but it wasn't for me. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, not every book is going to be for everybody, but
Yeah,
don't
for
take
sure.
it and then not say anything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right. So how about this? We were talking before we were off recording. We were saying like so you don't. How many books did you say you read? That was two.
So last year in 2024, I read like around 250 books.
Right. And have you ever checked to see if the person's black, white, Asian, woke, not woke, Trump supporter, alien supporter? Hey, you ever check? You just grab the book and read, right?
I just grab the book and read. I could give two shits.
That's
Not in a negative way.
no,
Not,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
mean
no, you
that,
make
but
sense.
I don't care what the author looks
What the
like.
author
what
looks
they-
like, right?
I
So
don't
we
care
were
what their
talking
beliefs
about.
are.
Say it again.
I said I don't care what their beliefs are, like what
Right.
religion, what color, what anything. If the book is
Neither,
good,
right?
that's all I
Yeah.
care about.
Because I used to just grab the book. Okay, so we were talking about this. So my experience, and I would say I would get pinned to the wall to this, but I've already been pinned to the wall. My experience is I have a I have the biggest issue with my own kind, black people, because they care about the type of black I am. It's pretty noticeable that I'm mixed. Like look at my balding head, but like my little bit of curl, like my kind notices that I'm mixed, right? Because they'll be like, you light skin or something. Like they notice, right? My hair and stuff. So they'll be like, you're not black. They'll tell me I'm not black. It's just like, you're mixed, you're not black. So there's the big stigma with mixed guys is that they'll say, fuck, there's a quote on Instagram and I can never find this shit. But pretty much it's like, we have the privilege of a white man, but the trauma of a black man at the same time, or black people. And I always laugh at that because I'm like, what fucking privilege is this? Maybe you heard the other podcast where I was like, I don't have white privilege. And when we were talking about white privilege, it was I clarified last podcast about like, it was definitely the boomers I had beef with when we talk about white privilege, because our generation mostly grew up not giving a fuck about any of this stuff. But they say I would have privilege, and then I'm like, what fucking privilege? And then the thing is, I noticed that. So even when I'm saying this, I can already hear if this ever goes viral or not, whatever, it gets popular, I can already hear them spinning it on me. Well, you did this and you hate your own kind and da da da. I don't hate my own kind. I have all of the Twitter proof and fucking Instagram proof and shit that you guys are mean to me. You guys are mean to me. I don't hate my own kind. I have it on fucking Twitter. You guys called me not black, and then you told me that you don't support authors that don't represent black people, but then at the same time, and then you'll say, you guys said to me that my book cover doesn't have a black person on it, so that means I'm not representing black people. You guys have every fucking excuse. But then simultaneously, you guys will say black owned everything. And then when you want, you will conveniently call the mixed guy, me, black when you want to. So I have to vote for Biden, Harris, or subscribe to whatever thing is the community when you want me to be black. And then when I'm not black, you can fuck me over or say you don't owe me anything. And then the other thing is, especially wokies, I'm straight. So because I'm straight, I don't represent the LGBT whatever. So then instead of just reading my book and considering me a romance author, because woke people are all about sexual freedom, right? We know that sexual freedom and all this other stuff. But I'm called predator because I write erotica or sex scenes. And that I wrote woman and stuff in a male gaze. I thought you guys don't care about freedom of sexual expression. So then why do you care if I did see a woman in male gaze? It doesn't make sense. You don't want slut shaming. I'm not slut shaming. I'm writing freaky shit. But I'm a straight male. So then you care? What the fuck? You guys are full of shit. You just fucking hate straight men. And then you hate me and mixed people. And you want to fucking find a way. I think you hate straight people. And then you hate your own kind. Crab in a barrel. Black people, you know what I'm talking about. Crab in a barrel. And then you find an excuse that I'm mixed. Because everyone knows I'm black. Mixed or not, everyone considers me black. So cut the bullshit. It makes no sense. Because I will wrap this up in saying conservative people, white people, Mexican people, whatever, considering themselves conservative, have bought and supported me way more than the woke leftist white, black, or whatever. So it's not just race. It's the political spectrum. All the people that say they're woke and should be supporting me are the meanest motherfuckers. All the ones with BLM, all the ones with all the pride flags, all the ones that say all of the nice virtue signaling things have been the meanest people to me. And all the people that are like, yay, Trump, or yeah, I just have a more conservative point of view, will just buy my book, write me a little nice message like, hey, I bought your book. Yeah, it's pretty freaky. It's not my thing. Or, hey, it's my thing, but I can't go to church like this. Like, I can't admit this, like kind of shit. They're nice to me. You wanted more people to vote on your spectrum, but you guys are so mean. It makes people fucking freak out. And then you twist it and make it like we're mean to you. No, absolutely not. Bullshit. Anyways, I close it with, you guys are fucked up. And then you switch it. She's laughing because she knows it's true.
So I was just going to say that I've seen a lot of people in the book community like talk about like read banned books, read this, read that. And then the people that I see posting that are the ones that like attack books because it doesn't fall within their view of what they think everything should be. So I'm like, you're preaching about reading banned books, which I haven't found any actual banned books.
Oh, that's all bullshit. Yeah.
It's a bullshit thing that people talk about. Now, there are instances where they're talking about removing certain books from schools, right? That they shouldn't be in schools for children.
Right.
Which is, to me as a parent, is totally acceptable. There shouldn't be certain books available to kids at school. But that does not mean that those books are actually banned, that you can't buy them, that you can't. Because
Yeah.
when I think of a banned book, it's a book that's like trying to totally be banned from the world, right? But those people who post about reading banned books and reading erotica books and stuff like that, they're the ones like attacking, like, Harry Potter was a big book that
Oh
was
yeah.
being attacked because of
The
something
author, right?
something the author said. And I'm like,
Right.
you guys are so into like looking up these people's lives and like totally like looking, like that goes back to like what we were talking about before. Like, I don't care what an author believes in, what their stance is on things. Like, I'm interested in the book. Is the book good? Do I like the book?
Right.
Then that's all that matters. And I try to support all authors that I come across that I've met. I try to support them any way that I can. But those people that preach about that
Are the
inclusiveness, and
meanest.
they're the ones that aren't doing that though. They're the ones that are like, you think this way, I don't like you. You're writing this, you're not including this. And they're the ones really virtual signaling.
Virtue signaling, yeah. They're the
Yes.
biggest bullies. Like, I test shit on purpose. I followed all of the Trump supporting booktubers, and then I followed all of the woke black everything or POC everything people. Because like it's not just black, it's like the Asian booktubers, the Mexican book, all of the left leaning ones that swear to God they are super supportive of other POC. I followed them. They never fucking follow me back. I would say a 1% rate of follow back. Like I'll follow them. I even interacted with them. And then one of my friends, she was like, she's a black lady. She's a ride or die. She even tried to help me out because I told her like, hey, like this is bullshit. Like watch, this girl never follows me back. I've been following her on BookTube for a while. I supported her. I repost her shit and everything like that. And she never follows me back. She never acknowledges me. And then everything she says that should be in a book is in my book. Like the freaky scenes and stuff. She's like, oh, I love all of this stuff. The tropes, you guys call it. I'm like, hey, sometimes I even try to like get her attention. Like I have this, I have that, I have that. And so my friend, she wrote in a comment like, hey, have you tried author Owen Will stuff? And then the girl's really smart because usually a lot of them will quickly fall out of character and tell you they're biased. Like, oh no, he's a male, he's CIS. They usually fall out of character, but they don't realize that they're cognitive dissonance. But she just answered politely, like, oh, I'll check him out. And I was like, oh, you're real smart because usually they just fall right off the thing. But I was like, I pick her as one example because a lot of them do that. Like it's so prominent where I'm like, hey, I'm the person you said you support. I'm following you. I'm supporting you, and you won't even look at me. You won't even click follow back. I didn't even say why didn't you buy, but follow me back. That's nice. Like fuck, I follow strangers on Instagram all the time. You can't follow me back. You don't want to acknowledge I exist. You'll take the free help to boost your shit, but you don't even want to acknowledge. And that to me is fucked up because if I see like a Trump supporter, blah blah blah, all on their stuff, I'll be like, oh, let me see. Are they gonna follow the black guy back? And I'll click follow, and I'll like go fucking pee or do whatever, and then I'll check my phone, followed back right away, right
That's
away.
because like they get such, or we, I guess, get such a bad rep from the media, and like people like hate us, but like we want to support everybody. Like we love everybody. Like we're not like these like evil people that like everybody makes us out to be, because I mean, I'll admit I'm a conservative. I'll say I'm more in the middle.
Me
Like
too.
I'm
Yeah, I
not
was always gonna say I'm in the middle. Like I don't. I
I'm
just want to
not
be
like a
left alone.
hardcore,
Huh?
there's like hardcore conservatives. I'm not like a hardcore conservative. It's just that how, like, I voted for Obama when Obama first came out because I liked him and I liked what he standed for. And so I voted for him. But then I saw like what he did and then I didn't vote for him the second term, and then after that kind of stuff kind of went to shit, and so I started leaning more conservative, but I'm kind of like more in the middle. I consider myself, because there's some things with like Democrats that I agree with, and some things with
Yeah.
it's just now it's shifted. So there's more with conservatives. The
Our country
Republican
used to
side.
be like this. It was a very respectable arguments. We would shit on each other between the left and right, and then it just turned fucking goofy. Like, it turned so goofy. Because middle is now considered far right. Because how could I be conservative? I write like fucking swinger erotica, and I'm all about like freaky shit. Like, if you said to me, hey man, there's an orgy party, I'm all for weird shit like that. Like I'm all for the freakiest, weirdest shit. I love crazy shit like that. Conservatives, you guys are like, what? One marriage, one this, like, go to church. If I step foot in church, I would fucking get hit by lightning, then caught on fire, and like, see, like, I'm not fully conservative. Like, I mean, but now wokey people call me a far right person. So that's the Overton windows in fucking the 12th dimension.
That's what I would be considered, and I don't think that I am like super far right.
Yeah.
But if you're a conservative, then that's just what you are. You're far right, and
Extremist.
you're an extremist, you're racist, you're this, you're that,
Yeah.
you're all kinds of things. And, you know, I grew up, since I think that you were talking about earlier, like support, I don't even remember what it was, but the whole like racism thing, right, is I think that what people misunderstand these days, not that there's not racism, like I've seen it firsthand.
Me too.
So I know that there's stupid people out there who are just idiots. But I feel like as a country, like we're not that, but there is class issues, right?
Yeah.
I grew up super poor. Like my mom was on welfare. I grew up in ghetto neighborhoods, like bad neighborhoods where there was like drive-bys and stuff like that. I've
Where you
grown up
from?
in neighbor, huh?
Where you from?
I'm originally from Maine, but I moved to. I've moved back and forth between Maine and Arizona, but like I've been in Arizona since I was 13, and I grew up in neighborhoods and went to schools where I was like the second, like there was like 3 white kids at the school, right? And because we were poor and we grew up in not that I've lived in neighborhoods with poor white, I'm not saying. I hope
No,
people
I get
don't
what you
take it
mean.
that way, that I'm meaning that like
No,
only
I know.
certain people.
There's a poor in the gangster neighborhoods, and there's poor in the trailer. The trailer, both poor is poor. I get you.
Yeah, they're both poor. Like I've been in all white poor neighborhoods. I've been
Yeah.
in. It's just whatever Section 8 housing was available.
Available, yeah.
Is where we lived growing up. And I mean, I've even lived in shelters, but I didn't have any help growing up. Like I never went to college. I never got to do that. I couldn't afford that. I couldn't even get a loan to go to college.
Right.
I didn't have any help. I had to work my ass off to get, where I'm at now. And now I think I would be considered like middle class, but I had to work fucking hard for that
If
shit.
they let us stay that way. The way they're trying to do it is some 1984 shit where they fucking take all our money. So here's the funniest thing. Everyone's asked when they talk about political spectrum. Did you remember Harris's plan for taxing capital gains, unrealized capital gains?
A little bit, yeah.
So, like, a lot of Democrats I asked about that, they didn't notice this. And then one of my good friends, she's hardcore Democrat and she's hardcore pro-black woman, pro-woman, everything, right? And she was like, I couldn't even vote for Harris. And I was like, And I knew exactly why too. Right away, I was like, because of her unrealized capital gains tax, and she was like, yeah. And the funniest thing is, I knew why because she's a homeowner, and that shit would make you lose your home, especially if you have two, because you can't afford something you don't have, right? How are you going to pay an unrealized capital gain? And if your house went up, if you bought your house at what, 200,000, 300,000, and it goes up to 600,000, and then they try to tax you on it, you're fucked. You can't pay that. Unrealized gain, you don't have that money, and then they want it. So how could you vote for her? So that's why I was thinking, I'm a conspiracy theorist too. I'm like, I don't think she wanted to vote because like she sabotaged it with that. Like even if we say people were right leaning but wanted to lean left, you can't pick her, because if
No.
you realize, if you're a homeowner, you can't pick that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So did your friend vote conservative then? Did she vote for?
You know what? I didn't
Or
ask
did she
her.
not
We
vote at
just
all?
laughed at that because it's so out of her character. But I knew, like that for me, it was so out of her character because I was like, I knew right away. And then I mean, like if she's one of those big people that are like, hey, like always talking about black voices and everything like that. So when she said that, and then her brother was there, and he was like, you didn't vote for her? Like even her brother didn't realize it. And she was like, no, how? She was like, what do you want me to do with the house? And I had said it, and then he heard it, and he was like, no, well, it's not that bad. It's for the rich. And she was like, no. And then, cause like when you read it, it was for us. It was for us middle class who own the house. They were gonna get us. And then there was a part of the you will own nothing and be happy agenda. So I was like, shit, man. Like so for all of the people out there thinking that whatever liberals, if you didn't know about that, you should really read her agenda, if they even kept it up, by the way, because they'll take shit down fast now. They'll stealth edit it. But yeah, read
Oh,
her.
I'm sure that they took it down. But see,
Yeah.
that's somebody who's like smart and understands
Yeah.
like a lot of people don't think about that. Like it's you have to. My mom is a hardcore Democrat because we were poor. Like she's just a hardcore Democrat.
Yeah.
And she won't change her mind on that anymore. But but I would tell my mom, like when I'm talking to her, I'm like, it's about, because a lot of the policies that she would get frustrated with, I'm like, then you just need to vote the other way.
The other way, yeah.
Because basically, like, you don't agree with any of their policies. You're just voting because you've always voted Democrat. And I'm
Right.
like, just because you've always voted Democrat does not mean that you can't vote for another party, because it's about the policies, what you want to see. So housing
Right.
is like a big one. Taxes is a big one. A lot of people right now, it's immigration. It's what you want to see change.
What do you want to see?
Is how you vote. And I see people too that like live in like a lot of like really like democratic states, and they move because they're frustrated with how like things are going in their state.
The crimes.
And they move.
The crimes,
Yeah.
and then they try to stealth it like it's not full of crime. And they invited it in.
Yeah, and it's
Decriminalize
because that's how
this
you
and all this
voted.
stuff, and then you got crime. And speaking of that, so they want to decriminalize all of this stuff, and then but then they don't want criminals, and then simultaneously, so like for me, I'll never forget this. I think I already told this story in my other podcast, especially with like black people and people who worship prisoner type shit. They love it. They love prisoners and they love crime at the same time. They'll go out of their way on the Facebook groups to those things where the prisoners are live streaming and free whoopee, free killer, free murder, free ice, free all of these tag names or whatever. They love them. And then I went on there and it was one of the like black owned pages, like black everything, me being me. I always experiment and test. And I was like, hey, check out my erotica book. Anybody interested? And one of the prisoners said, I told the story before, it was like, we don't read around here, fam. You're like, ain't nobody over here reading nothing. I was like, oh shit, man. He was nice. A lot of people were just like not interested because you can post right there and it's live. I don't know if that page is still active. It was a public page, by the way. So if anyone's like, "Oh, I'm snitching," I'm not snitching. That page was public. So those prisoners were on a public page live streaming. This wasn't a private page. So yeah, and I was trying to get anybody and everybody's attention back in the day. And yeah, we don't be around here, fam. So they love it, man. Like that. I'm gonna say they love it. They run away, but then they worship it at the same time. But I don't. It's a lot of cognitive dissonance. It's a lot of It's the same way with saying that they're all about sexual freedoms and stuff, but then hate the person if they write it. It's fucking. Sorry if I hijacked your.
No, you didn't. I don't know. Some of this stuff makes like zero sense to me.
Yeah.
And, like, I see all the drama with the writers and the people on Instagram, and I'm just like,
oh, the
just
Trump
here to, like,
versus
love books?
the liberals now. Yeah, the big war now. It's and both people are buying Onyx Storm, so you just stop fighting. You guys like the same books. It makes no sense. Like, yeah, that part it makes no sense. But yeah.
No, and I'm never going to not support somebody because they voted or did something different than I did. Like, I don't care. Like, to me, like, I care. Are you a nice person? Are you cool?
Yeah, I'm all the way with this. I'm more upset that if all the people that say that they're all for identity politics, because I will say Black people's community does feel broken. I will say that just from my own perspective, it's just like that's why I say Black people, you know what I mean when I say crab in a barrel, because they fucking know what I mean. Because I was a nerd, and nerds were not accepted in the hood, and you grew up in the hood, you know that nerds are not accepted. And I was just like, so now I'm a nerdy older guy, and it's just like, you guys are just shitting on me because you just don't want me to do good. Everything else is bullshit. Like, you just simply don't want me to succeed. You saw brother, you don't want him to do good, and then you're just, and a lot of it is just that male hate shit. I know a lot of women they want revenge. Whatever the patriarchy did, because there's a huge feminist portion of this, where whatever men did in the past, we're getting our fucking comeuppance now, because they say they'll support Black people, but then they always add Black woman. I get it, but you hate your brothers, and then they'll switch it like, oh, you hate your sisters. I don't fucking hate you. I'm just chilling. And brothers are not gonna read my book. Like, I'm not gonna give a guy a fucking erotica book and be like, hey, read this. We're visual creatures, so I can't imagine him reading it. Like, there's guys that read. I asked for those guys, but my target audience mostly wouldn't be guys. So then you're just hating a guy who writes this, and then you're turning me into the pervy guy. We're all fucking perverts. Leave me alone. Like, that's not fair. You know what I mean? To label me that, and then, well, so what are they then? What are romance erotica readers? They're not perverts? We're fucking, oh, I'm not reading it for that. Yes, you are. Fucking 50 Shades of Grey had cum on it. Woman's cum. They did the black light fucking thing from the library, and people were one hand reading that. Like, they fucking found the DNA or whatever the fuck on that. People are pervs. That's the point. Like,
I agree with that. And I don't care if it's male or female writing it.
yeah. So it's just,
I honestly, most of the time, don't even look at the author's name.
yeah.
Unless it's like something like I'm doing something for the author or I'm friends with the author. But I don't even pay attention to that. I actually have tons of books. I wish I could show you. I actually have a huge library, a huge collection of all kinds of books that we collect. I probably, let me see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How much is pervy? Hot seat. What's the percentage of pervy books?
That's just 3 bookshelves. 3 bookshelves.
Speaking of which, we should do that other topic real quick because we're running late. But how does dark romance have that perviness going on? Like, how do you guys? I know there's dark romance that's really dark, but there's a lot of you guys. I'm generalizing that like dark romance, but also get turned on by it. And as a guy, a lot of guys were always confused about that blurred line because we're taught that there's no gray lines, that it should be black and white, full on. I can't even really say the word, but you guys know what controversial shit I'm talking about. So we're taught that that's a no-go zone, but in those dark romance books, those main character bad guys are doing those no-go zone things, and then it's ooh, he's sexy, he's hot, and it's like, how are you getting turned on by that?
So
Yeah.
for me, this is my take on it. And what I think is I think we are, whether people want to realize it or not, I guess, we're animals, right?
Yeah.
We have been programmed since the dawn of time that the man is the protector, the provider, the person who's going to beat anybody up who messes with us, right?
Right.
And I feel like in the romance books, in a lot of the dark romance books, where the people talk about the villain, right?
Yeah.
And they're not even really, like, if you look into it, they're not even really villains. It's just because it's a man who is going to destroy the earth for the woman that he loves. And deep down, psychologically, whether women want to admit to it or not, who read this stuff, is that's what we're seeking. We want, and then we're also visual, or not visual creatures, but like men, like more of like the physical visual.
Yeah, we like to
aspect
watch and
of it.
see, and you guys
Yeah,
read and imagine. Yeah, yeah.
and we want to read and imagine it, but I think that our obsession comes from that, is ultimately we want the man, and I'm talking about like an actual man, a provider, a protector, because that's what men were made for with women. And
So all
to
the woke
me,
people are lying because they gobble it up the most. They don't like CIS straight men. They're gobbling it up the most. They fucking love it. Clearly.
but to me, that's what it is. That's what we want as a
Oh my
woman who
god, this
reads
gets more
this stuff.
twisted.
Is I want to read about. I don't want to read about a man being like, I'm not going to protect, like you. Like I don't even know how to describe it. I want to read
No, I
about a
know what you
man
mean.
who's going to like literally burn down the world
You
for the
don't want to
woman
read
that he
about a
loves.
weak guy. You can straight up say
Yeah.
it.
I don't
Someone
want to
who's like,
read.
oh no, he's kidnapping you and I'll just call the cops. No, you want this dude to freaking go to the kidnappers and gut them and split their guts open and then you make love in their guts and blood. Yeah, yeah, I got
Yes.
it.
And psychologically, whether women want to admit it or not, that's why they're reading it, because that's what we are programmed. Because all animals have their basic instincts, right?
Yeah.
Like the lions, it goes to the main lion, right? The male lion in the pride.
Yeah.
What is he? He is a protector.
He's a
He's
protector,
the one
yeah.
that protects their area and protects the females, and that's what it is and that's all we are. When you break it down, that's what we are. That's what we are, and that's what the women are seeking. Is that?
That makes perfect sense. You want to procreate with somebody that's going to protect you and your offspring. And
And that's
burning,
what women
scorching
look
earth to
for.
the bad guys is perfect for that. Because there's no bad guys left if he's scorched the earth. They're all gone. Completely destroyed. And then you
And
make
that goes.
love in the pool of the enemy's blood, your baby's going to do just fine. Everyone's going to be fine because they're all gone.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But I don't know. So to me, that's what it boils down to with the books and the dark and the villains and all of that stuff is, or even if you think about like regular romance, right? The billionaire, the what else is there? The mafia
The
romance. There's
mafia
like
ones, yeah.
mafia romance. The billionaire. Is it still going back to that basic need of, and the reason why women love it is because the billionaire is the person who's going to provide, right? He's going to provide for you and your kids and your offspring. And the mafia guy, that goes back to like the bad guy, but he's going to provide for you. He's going to take care of you. He's going to protect you. And that's what all of these books are about. That's what we're reading.
You've just enlightened me that woke people are way more cognitive dissonant than anything else in the world. Because everything else makes sense. Like what you're saying makes sense. So then it's just
They just don't realize that.
they just don't realize
That's
it.
why.
Yeah, that they
But
love just wait. So they love natural gender roles.
they do. They just don't want to admit it, or maybe they don't realize it.
But it has to be written by a woman.
But men can write that too.
No, they check. That's what we're talking about. You got the conservatives just buy and read, and then thinks nice book, but they check to make sure it's written by a woman. They need to hear the gender role packaged up by a lady. Holy shit!
But it's just taking us back down to our animal instincts.
Our animal instincts. Holy shit! I'm just like I'm digesting this, like just hearing it's complex but simple. It's just the straightest answer, direct answer to the thing.
And if you think back to like Disney movies, right? If you think back to Beauty and the Beast, what is Belle looking for? She doesn't want the guy who's like, I'm the best, I'm awesome, I'm like, look at me, I'm handsome.
Because
she wants the
he's-
beast.
yeah.
She wants the guy who's going to, who, when she went out into the woods, who came out, whipped all of the wolves' asses,
Yeah.
and protected her. And that's why she fell in love with him, because he is the protector. So if
Protector.
you even look at Disney movies about the male characters who the women go after, what is that? It is the guy who's protecting, the guy who's doing that stuff. So even looking at Disney movies, it's the same thing. And that's why women like Beauty and the Beast. That's why we like Cinderella. That's why we like all of that stuff. But it's still going back to...
So dark romance is the refined versions of this.
Yes. It's
He's
Beauty and
just
the Beast.
more untamed character, and then and then the rest of it is just the primal just callings of fantasies that you can't live in real life, pretty much.
Yeah, and then the fantasy aspect just comes in because, like I grew up loving Lord of the Rings and, all of the Game of Thrones and, all of that stuff. And it's just adding romance
To
into
those
that.
settings.
But it's, yeah, I don't know if women just don't realize it, but really we are reading this stuff because we're going back to our basic needs of needing a male who's going to provide for us, take care of us, and protect our children.
Ma'am, you're canceled. You're gonna be you're canceled.
I probably will be after this.
Oh no. No, you're fine. You know what I've noticed, honestly? Like the cancel culture people eat themselves. They've been eating themselves so much that we're safe now. Now, honestly, by the time they want to cancel us, they'd have an infight about their own weird shit, and then we'll be fine. Our opinions can stay; they're safe now. Or there are facts. Actually, it's honestly facts. What you're saying is just straight facts. But I love it. I love it, ma'am. We're at an hour and 9 minutes. So let's wrap this up. I'm gonna drop all of her what is it called? The book podcast. Her and her colleagues' book podcast. And whatever links you want me to put, I'll put them in the description. You can find me on Amazon. You can find her on all the YouTubes and stuff. And when her book drops, I will come back and re-edit it and then just pop it in there. So finish your book, friend.
I will.
Finish your book. And yeah, You can find us. This is, I believe, episode 4. And thank you so much. Is there any closing things you would like to add?
No, just thank you for having me. And I think it's awesome that you're doing this and supporting other people. And
Oh, yeah.
I think that that's great.
It's exciting. I love it. Like, I always wanted to do that, and I wanted to do it in a way where I don't feel like I'm supporting, but then I don't get love too. And the podcast is perfect because you can share. You can share the love. You can host a person. You can talk all about the person, and then the person hosting can talk about them, and then it's just perfect. It's perfect. I talk like an Italian. My mom's Italian, by the way, for all the people. What mix the Italian and Irish? So I talk with my hands, okay? Thank you so much for coming, and we'll talk a lot in the near future. See you soon. Bye bye. And stop.